Hey guys, for this video, I wanted to cover mapping and go over some of the things I wish I had known when I first started, as well as some general strategy and a couple of tips here and there. Firstly, mapping is super simple. This is the atlas, it is infinite, and each one of these nodes represents a map itself, and in order to get in, we must use a waystone. Waystones on top of opening maps provide two functions. Firstly, by the tier of the waystone itself, it determines the base monster level of the map, which is really important, which I'll get into later. But for example, a tier 15 map is base monster level 79, and a tier 1 map is base monster level 65. Additionally, Waystones apply map modifiers to the map, and that's what all this blue text is right here. I wouldn't worry about this too much right now, especially if you're first starting. When you first start, you should just run maps that are white and at most blue. If you ran a map like this, it's for sure minus 10% XP, and mapping safely in the beginning is the most important thing. Also, this is the realm gate. This is where you would use breach stones, and this is also where you use audiences with dickhead to go to the crux of dogshit for no loot. And then over here you have the reliquary vault. I don't actually know if there are reliquary keys in the game, but this is where you would use them. Moving on, let's talk about dying and why I say you should run them white when you first start, or blue at most. Dying is extremely costly when it comes to mapping for several reasons. First and foremost, once you start mapping, this is when the 10% XP loss penalty for death begins. So every time you die, that's minus 2 bars. Now, early on, it's not that big of a deal, but later on, you would actually rather die in real life. Additionally, if you die in a map, you lose all of the overworld modifiers. That would be these little icons right here. So in this case, this is a boss map that is irradiated and corrupted. I will go over all of that later, but right now, this map is absolutely juice as fuck. If I were to die, I lose all of these modifiers. They're all gone, and then it becomes some shitty little traversal map that I don't give a fuck about, and I'm going to shove some shit-ass Waystone into it, and it's a total waste of my time. Especially if it's VAAL Factory. Okay? Finally, and probably the most important part about dying in the map, is you lose the Waystone. Losing a Waystone like this is catastrophic, especially early on when you're trying to progress Waystones. Like if you're only running T8s or something and it's your only T10 or T11 Waystone, losing that is a huge deal because it's kind of hard to progress Waystones early on. And the number one most important point of progression is the higher level of Waystones. As I said before, the Waystone tier determines the base monster level of the area, and this is important because the monster level of the map is the single most important value to scaling progression in our character. Monster level determines XP, which gives us passive points, the quality of loot drops, which gives us better items, meaning more character power and better currency generation because we can sell higher tier items. We get more currency drops, just like base exalts and things like that. We get higher level of gems and greater chance for better jeweler orbs, all of which increase character power. And then also, it gives us higher level Waystones to progress all of that even further. This is why it's extremely important to use your Waystones wisely in combination with the Overworld Map Modifiers, and it's why it's really important you don't die when you are running a high tier Waystone when you're trying to progress. Getting back into Overworld Modifiers, those are these icons right here. These will apply to the map regardless of the Waystone. This is how you get League mechanics. So here's Expedition and Delirium. This is how you will know if you get a boss in your map. It'll be this icon right here. And lastly, you will have Irradiated and Corrupted, which apply +1 to the monster level of the map itself. Additionally, and unfortunately, Corrupted also causes Beyond mobs to spawn, which are those shitty little mobs that annoy the fuck out of you and drop absolutely nothing. Also, if you're really unlucky, sometimes you'll get a Beyond boss that also drops fuck all, just like in PoE 1, because no one knows why Beyond is still in the game, but thank God it's not Bomb Eth anymore, I guess. And yes, you can get both of them rolled onto a map node, and that is how you scale area level, right? So if I have a Waystone, which is tier 15, base monster level 79, if the map is both irradiated and corrupted, I have a monster level of 81. As far as I know, this is the highest level of the area I have encountered, and I don't know if you can go higher or not. So of course, given this information, ideally if our character can handle it, we only want to run corrupted and irradiated maps for the highest level of monster level, so we can get the best loot in the XP. As far as I know, corruption is a random overworld modifier that you just find, and it's usually associated with these little like red vine things. And I think irradiated can randomly spawn as well, but we can actually add irradiated to our overworld map nodes via Lost Towers and Precursor Tablets. So Lost Towers are these things right here. These are turbo dogshit maps and a complete waste of your time. I wouldn't recommend doing these early because honestly, you're probably just going to die. There's a lot of chaos mobs and freeze mobs that occur in this map that will just shoot you down the line of dogshit hallways. Also, you can't actually see what's in these stupid little fucking rooms until you actually enter it, including this sick-ass speed shrine. Thank you, fucking scripted. Now this is even better. This is precisely how you do this. You just run. Fuck all these mobs. It's literally the Super Smash Bros. Melee race to the finish game. I'll show you the end of it. You just keep going. You don't stop to really, I mean, this is T1, so I can't really loot anything. But yeah, you just run through it. You're looking for a giant case of, oh my god, I've never seen 113, I never fucking will. Oh my god. I'm on the perfect line. 2 quick ones. Oh, nice. Fuck yeah. All right, well, that's how you do the Lost Tower right there. There you go. That's literally, that's a 112. You're welcome. Anyways, now that we've completed the tower, to use a Precursor Tablet, we open this bitch up and we slot one in. Precursor tablets come in 2 types, and they have 2 functions. Their first function is determined by the type of tablet it is. So if it's a regular one, it'll apply irradiated to X number of maps in range, or if it is a League Mechanic tablet, it will apply the respective League Mechanic to X number of maps in range. Additionally, they apply these worthless fucking modifiers to all the maps in radius, and these modifiers are wildly insignificant, but they are only positive, so you pretty much should apply them every single time. There's no reason not to. You cannot use regals on these. 2 is the max. They cannot be exalted. Honestly, they're just really insignificant to give a fuck about. You have no control over what they are, so no reason to not do this. You can min-max this, to be honest, but if you're doing that, you're not watching this video, so I don't really care. A word of caution here as well, even with Atlas passives, the irradiated Precursor tablets seem to be few and far between, so keep that in mind if you're spamming them. And also, if you die in Lost Towers, you don't actually lose the Lost Tower. You will always retain the functionality once you complete it, but you can only use them once. Speaking of Atlas points, go over my Atlas tree. As I've mentioned a million times, higher level Waystones are king, so I invested absolutely everything into Waystone tier and drop chance. And I forgot to mention this, but you do need higher level Waystones to get more Atlas points, which then allows you to get more Waystones, right? Blah, blah, blah. You know where I'm going with this, fuck off. And then after I got all my Waystone drop chance and stuff, I went with rare modifiers just because this was incidentally right here. So I pick up this, grab some rare stuff right here. And then lastly, I invested in Precursor tablets, mainly because you just need an ass ton of these. And I've been spamming the shit out of them. And like I said earlier, they're kind of rare. So yeah, this is the tree. And finally, with all that explained, I will talk about how I use my Waystones and my general mapping strategy. So with nodes like this, where it's just irradiated, this is when I'll use my tier 14 Waystones and I'll super juice these. So it's like running a juiced T15. And then when I get to maps like this, where I have a boss, it's irradiated and corrupted, this is when I drop the big boy Waystones. I will absolutely juice the fuck out of these, because as you can see at the top, Waystone drop chance plus 340%. And also, we want to farm bosses in this area, because this is how we progress the boss tree, which is this right here. And again, this has some juicy stuff for Waystone drop chance, as well as this right here. So every time you have a boss, the map is guaranteed to be irradiated, so it's a free +1. This allows you to save Precursor tablets. You also get Waystone of higher tier drop chance as well. You also have to kill bosses in 79 plus areas to earn points for this tree. It's been a while, and I've killed a lot of bosses. I don't know totally how this works, but I figure obviously the higher the monster level, the better it has to be. Theoretically, cope. Also, for maps like this that are just traversal maps, this is where I use my tier 13s. I don't really give a fuck about these. There's nothing worthwhile on them. Remember, you have to complete the map to get the connection. That's when I use my tier 13s. And lastly, if I see a map like this that is corrupted, what I will try to do is I'll try to path around it. So ideally, I would find some way to get over here, get to the Lost Tower, throw a Precursor tablet in, and then hope it gets irradiated. And then I can run these as T15s to get the monster level 81, because again, monster level is king. Also, let's talk about map layouts. This is good to understand because most certainly not all maps are created equal. Some maps are complete and total waste of your fucking time, and other maps are just absolutely cracked. This is also really important because it determines the boss that you will encounter. So, for example, over here, my homie in Seepage, I have fought him a bazillion times, and I am more than happy to run 40% more damage, 40% damage is lightning, 40% damage is ice. I will never die to this boss. Super easy. Conversely, my arch nemesis down in Riverside, the giant monkey with the big stone pillar who butt fucks me every time, I will only ever run a super safe map, something like this, because this boss just, I don't know what it is. He is my kryptonite, and he kills me more than any other boss in the game. Also, regarding map layouts, I believe while not all the monster types will be the same, there is a subset of monster types that will always be present in a specific layout. And this is really important to consider. And the reason for this is because it brings me to my biggest tip for not dying in maps, which is understanding the base monster type that you are fighting. You know, if it's the big fat guy with the giant stick, he's going to explode after he dies one-shotting your bitch ass. If you go into a lost tower, you know you're going to get frozen and hit with chaos damage. If you see a group of those fuckhead mercenaries with their shitty little crossbows, they're all going to firing squad you all at once for 9 hits. If you have a bunch of damage modifiers on, you know you got to watch out for the WWE birds in the desert and the quadrillas who will RKO your ass from the top rope for 10%. Also, if you see a cultist archer, those are notorious 10% thieves. They'll drop this shitty little line of chaos explosions on the ground, which will blast your bitch ass if you don't have chaos res. Paying attention to the mob is huge. It is a huge determinant of how combat works, and this also applies to rares, right? If he's covered in a bunch of purple little shards, he's gonna chaos shard all over fucking everywhere, and you guessed it, he's gonna collect his 10%. The final thing I'll mention is the actual league mechanics themselves. It is okay to skip league mechanics if you cannot safely do them. Breach is rippy as all fuck. Ritual is rippy as fuck, especially with that shitty little tornado of rats or whatever the fuck it is. Deli, not so rippy, but also totally worthless. All you get are distilled ires. Oh, is that T15 level 81? Here's 5 distilled ires. Thank you so much. They are not worth losing the map, and they're not worth dying. You'll notice I did not mention Expedition because Expedition is absolutely fucking cracked, and it's actually relatively safe. Expedition is kind of my go-to moneymaker, and it's where I get all of my currency from. It's how I've afforded all of these. Like these items alone are like 300 exalts. It's where all this came from, and that's going to be my next video, actually. I'll be going over how to make currency and how to not be broke. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you gents in the next one.